26 of the Daddy Brigade podcast. I'm Keith the Bearded Tank.
I'm Zach the Tactical Gnome.
And this episode, we got a special guest with us. Why don't you go ahead and introduce him there, Zach?
Well, if you folks have been paying attention, I've kind of hinted to the fact that we were going to have a special guest on tonight. And I have heard this gentleman talk several times on the Primary and Secondary podcast and a couple other podcasts. And I reached out to him, and he was generous enough to come on this evening. Tonight we have the bearded legend, I will say, Ash Hess from Knights Armament and Quantified Performance. So Ash, for the folks that don't know who you are, why don't you give us a little background on yourself?
So basically, the short version is I did 22 years in the Army, deployed 4 times, 3 times to Afghanistan, 1 time to Iraq. In between all those deployments, well, on one of the deployments particularly, the first one, I realized that Army people don't train shooting correctly. And I realized that when I shot a guy and he didn't do what we advertised, you know, the whole 1 shot, 1 kill, that thing.
Yeah.
We'll get into that later. I've got a 500 grain rule that only works with really big guns. So shot a guy. The advertised stuff didn't go very well. We eventually dropped him, but it took a whole lot more work than advertised. So after that deployment, I got to go to another class, deployed after that. You know, I got my first Army shooting class in, deployed after that, applied a lot of that, came back, did more shooting in between deployments, learned a bunch of stuff there. Deployed again, started applying a bunch of more of that sort of stuff, and that kind of snowballed into me running the course that I'd went to in 2005. I actually got to end up started running that course. So what happened from there is that spun into ended up writing the marksmanship manual for the entire Army. Worked on that for rifle and a pistol, and got to shoot with a bunch of guys. Got to be friends with a bunch of guys. And that just kind of turned into basically, I'm not a professional shooter, but I shoot and talk about shooting and do stuff like this podcast, do that pretty much for a living. So not a pro shooter, like I don't wear a sponsored shirt or anything like that. I couldn't get sponsored, like we were talking about a little bit earlier. I couldn't get sponsored, so I started my own company. So now I'm sponsored by Quantified Performance because I own it.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah, that was the easiest way. I wasn't good enough to get sponsored by a real company, so I just made one. But the trying to figure out the nooks and crannies and the little tiny parts about shooting and doing a lot of shooting. During that 3 years that I taught, I probably fired 1,000 rounds a month for, other than like December, was probably firing 10 to 12,000 rounds a year for 3 years straight.
Wow.
So in that you find everything you're doing wrong, find out ways to fix it, and then you can see what other people's doing wrong.
That's insane.
My guys that were with me, my crew, we could duplicate, like if you shot a group, we could lay down without even seeing you shoot that group. We could see the group and we could pretty much duplicate that group. So, because we were shooting that much, we could make the group do what you did. And then we're like, hey, what I had to do to make this group that way was do these things. So, and the guys would be like, yeah, I kind of felt like I did that. Well, don't do that. So,
don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that anymore. It works better. But we learned a lot of things. Like I say, I made a bunch of friends. They say surround yourself with people that are better than you, and I've been able to do that. I've got people that write better than me. I got people that talk better than me. I got people that shoot better than me. I got all these people that I can look to them and be like, hey man, you know, what am I doing wrong here? What am I doing wrong here? You know, help me out on that. So that's the really short version. I know that was long, but that's the short version.
That works. So I've listened to several interviews with you from Primary and Secondary. Listened to your one on the 2A lifestyle, or the 2A podcast that you just recently did. How did the whole idea of quantified performance come about?
So after I got out of the Army, because I was my last job title in the Army was the marksmanship program developer for the U.S. Army Infantry School. So I was basically the guy for small arms training in the Army, because the infantry school controls what the Army does for shooting. They're the proponent for it. So I was the guy. I was like there's AMU and they have their voice and everything, but when it comes to the qualification and what Army dudes are shooting and when and all that sort of stuff, I was the dude. When I left the Army, I was just the Knights Armament sales rep. And that says a lot in itself, right? It's not that's bad, but when you go from being this dude in the Army to something that's not that, I wanted to stay basically relevant in the shooting community, because without that, I wasn't shooting competitively. I wasn't running classes. I just wanted to be, basically relevant and stay in the game. So my boss decided that we were going to go shoot the PRS gas gun series. So this is 2018. And I was like, what is that? He's like, oh, you're going to shoot really small targets really far away. And I had been doing lots of CQB stuff. A lot of my classes I ran, I could run them in less than 200. I did a couple classes in 50 yards. That's what I was shooting fast. I was shooting, I was trying to get down, below 0.2 splits and stay inside of A zone, stay on my feet all the time. And I was like, I don't know anything about shooting long distance. And he's like, well, you better learn. You're the marksmanship guy. Figure it out. So for 2018, we shot the PRS gas gun series, and I learned a lot. I learned a lot about shooting from people around me. I've been doing all the shooting. I've been shooting or typing about shooting or talking about shooting for 5 years. And then when I started shooting these matches, I learned a lot, not about like combat marksmanship or anything like that. I just learned a lot about, what's important, because the only thing I had was what I had talked about. So I just went into there and I was like, hey, I typed this stuff for the Army, and I said, the Army's going to do it this way, so I'm going to apply that. And throughout that series, learn more about long range shooting. And I got a guy for that too. One of my good buddies was a sniper instructor forever. So, get with him and texting with him and calling him. And then I kind of caught the competitive bug, because with that competition, I can do shooting. I can do what I know. I don't have to try and teach classes. I just go out there and I perform, not with the team. It's just me, the clock and the targets. So I really enjoyed that, because I wasn't being based off of how well I did a podcast, or, how well my message got across, or if this guy in the class didn't like me. It just, if he didn't like my personality, if I cussed too much or any of that sort of stuff, it was just me shooting. And I did fairly well in the series. There was for the tactical, the division I was shooting in, I think there was it was 80 people throughout the year that shot, they were actually part of PRS. Because you got to pay $100 a year, $125 a year to be part of PRS. The matches had generally between 80 and 150 people at them, and we did three matches, something like that. And then, but at the end of the series, at the end of the year, I had placed 5th.
Wow.
So I did fairly well, in that. I started off, I was, one of the matches we shot, there was like 80 people shooting it, and I think I got like 21st. So I was, my first match, I was solid, but I wasn't good, not by any means. I was there, I shot bullets, and but as the matches went on, and I learned more, and so we drove to a lot of those, because the company vehicle and all that with Knights, it was, and Knights basically sponsored us for that, because it helps sell guns. So because we're not making bolt guns, we're not making any of these things. So taking the guns there, doing well, company was like, hey, this upsells guns. So what we drove from, we're here in Florida. One of the matches is in West Virginia. One of the matches was in Kentucky, and one of the matches was in Dallas, Texas. And we drove. So we talked a lot about, making a little company and doing some stuff. When you're driving from Dallas to Florida, even just Florida, I think Florida, from where we are in Florida to through the Panhandle, it's like Texas. Because you get into Florida just by Mississippi, you still got to go past Alabama, past Georgia.
Yeah, I can vouch for that. I have driven that.
Right. It's not fun. So
that's
in that,
like driving across the state of South Carolina.
Yeah, and it was just a lot of miles, and so then there was one more match because we shot 3 because we were supposed to shoot 4, and we were really happy because the finale was going to be, it was like October, November was supposed to be the finale, and it was here in Florida, so it was only a 6-hour drive. So we were like, all right, cool, because it was on the other end of the Panhandle, but we're like, man, that's an easy drive compared to these other ones. And well, then nobody signed up for the finale, and because what was happening with the series was participation was dropping, and then participation dropped, sponsors drop. And when sponsors drop, participation drops more because I'm not going to go there and win anything. The matches are still $250, and there was like 4 prizes on the table. So people want to win things. And then, so when they canceled the finale, Precision Rifle Series decided to cancel the gas gun series for 2019. So that left us with no matches to shoot. And so we had the competitive bug. It was good for business, night's business. And then
what happened?
Uh-oh. Give us a second here, folks.
Technical difficulties.
Yeah.
Hold on.
There you
still
go.
there?
Video's still there. Uh-oh. Oh, no. We lost him. Give us 1 second here. He comes back. There we go.
There you go. We got this one might be better. I've got 2 different, I got a 2G and I got a 5G thing, and the 5G doesn't seem to be working right. So where did you lose me at?
Right at the beginning of 2019.
Yeah, when they canceled the gas gun.
Yeah, so they canceled the gas gun series. And so at that point we were like, well, what are we going to do now? So we were just like, and about that time, Eddie Nolan from Arena Training Facility was like, hey, dude, you should run a match here. And I was like, okay. And so we ran our first match. We set up everything. We ran our first match. We set it at 80 people. We had like 55 or 60 people actually show up. It was just a 1-day event. There was no prizes. Well, there ended up being prizes because Tom Fuller from Armageddon Gear was shooting in the match, and he had brought 2 big old bags of Armageddon gear.
Oh, nice.
He's on the table. We're like, okay. And so we put it on the table, and then William Phoebus, who was working for ADM at the time, he was shooting a match, so he put some stuff from ADM on the table, and it made a little prize table, and there wasn't that many people there. So we took lessons learned from that, and then from there, that's where we got basically the startup for Quantified Performance, because that first match was just, we started out and we called it Nights, and as soon as, because we Nights was going to basically sponsor it and was just going to put some Nights banners there and make it a company type event. And as soon as we announced it, guy was like, how many guns are you putting on the table for Nights? We're like, we're not doing a prize table at all. And he's like, what do you mean? You guys just won a $10 million contract. You're not putting a gun on the table and you're doing a match. And it instantly, like within like 3 minutes, became a company problem and not our problem. And it wasn't supposed to be a company problem.
Wow.
So we called it a day in the arena presented by Jack and Ash, or Ash and Jack, because when you say Jack Ash, it sounds bad.
I could see how people could mess that up.
And I admit I'm a jackass, so I mean that's I didn't mind it, but
them canceling that the 2019 was kind of like a little bit of a kick in the nuts to all the gas guys.
I mean, yeah, it was. I can see why they did it, and I admit they could have done it a whole lot different. I'm not faulting them in it because it wasn't making any money because people wasn't showing up. From a business side, I can see it. But the reason people weren't showing up is because they were setting up the matches as like a bolt gun match.
Mm-hmm.
And it was no fun for gas gun guys because it was all just stuff I could do with a bolt gun. And why would I want to shoot a gas gun that's printing a minute when I can shoot my bolt gun that's doing a third minute and get more hits faster than I can with my gas gun? So it was just weird. And then so when we started the company in June. And after that first match, we realized a couple things, because on Sunday of that match, on Sunday, we were going and taking down targets. And so we had all these targets. We had this beautiful range facility. We had a whole day, and we just were basically wasting time. So we decided from the sponsorship side, on Sunday, we do basically a train up social media sponsor day. And that's how it became a weekend in the arena, because what we decided to do was offer, basically, instead of having, we let people go do open range. So if you shoot on Saturday, on Sunday, you can go and play on all the stages. The stages are still set up. Shot timers are out there. Spotting scopes are out there. It's just like the match, except for it's not the match anymore.
Right.
So what I would have is, if this was my stage right here, and if everybody was shooting right here, there's just dudes hanging out there and shooting. So that's an opportunity for my sponsors to put up a table if they want to send a guy, put up a table and demo the products. Because I know Sons of Liberty Gunworks makes an outstanding rifle. I know that. I know the guys that work there. They're solid guns. I know the feedback on it, but I've never fired a factory-built Sons of Liberty gun. I have pieces, parts, and I got a lower, and I got this, but I've never fired one. I've never seen down this glass. I haven't seen down, Joe Bob Scope Company's glass. I don't know what it looks like. And you go to the gun show and you're like, oh, that's a really nice scope, because you got a 4-power magnification and there's bright lights and everything's perfect. So basically what it allows us to do is, we got 8 stages. So we've got 8 spots where a sponsor can put up a table and demo the product. A couple of sponsors took us up on that last time. The sponsors that I talked to were just like, what are you talking about, man? I'm like, hey, Sunday's a gun show, except for it's at the stage. And they're just like, oh, well, I don't know what to do with that. And it's because it's new. It's completely, usually they just send product and they're done with it. Mm-hmm. What we're asking them actually to show up. And so, but that allows the guys that are shooting the match basically time to build their social media content. Because if you're trying to get sponsored, if you already are sponsored, if you're into shooting, social media is part of our lives now. So if I can, I can't during the match, I can't be sitting there with my cell phone and be like, doing Instagram live while I'm shooting the match, because that disrupts the match. But on Sunday, I can go to that same stage. I can get good data. I can make sure everything's right. And then I can have my buddy hold the thing while I'm going Instagram live, and I can go Instagram live and shoot a stage on a match, during that, without disrupting anything. And then the other thing is, whatever I messed up on Saturday, I can go back to that stage. And if I had a stage that just kicked me in the junk, I can go back to that stage and I can figure it out. I can figure out, whatever messed me up, or the techniques that I saw everybody use after I did. I'd be like, man, why didn't I think of that? And then I can go practice that. So I'm going to be better for the next match.
That's a good idea. I like that. That's awesome, because you can work on, skills that you may have messed up on, or try other things that other people did to do better.
Yeah. And you can try it faster, because some of the stages are, they're usually 10 targets total, 10 to 15 targets. So that's not a lot of rounds. But during a match, you're like, man, I got to get my hits, so I'm going to go slow and take my time. And then I'm like, man, I ended up this many seconds behind. But then on Sunday, you can be like, okay, I'm going to speed this up a little bit. So you shoot it once and you're like, okay, try to go faster. And you're like, nope, screwed that up. I can't go that fast. But now you know how fast you can go for the next time you see that sort of situation, without doing it under match conditions. And we had people going, hey, why don't you do the range day on Saturday and do the match on Sunday? I'm like, no, I want to see what you got on Saturday. I don't want to see you practiced and warmed up. I want to see what you've been doing. Yeah. And then you can tune yourself up on Sunday. So the last match, the one that we ran in October, we had many do we have? Like 70, like 70 competitors, I think.
Wow.
Off the top of my head. So that was an increase from the other one. But I also had about 90 prizes on the table.
Wow.
So and that was, and that was from little things to Vortex scopes to, Forward Controls Design sent some stuff that's like $40, but there was 4 or 5 of those things, So I'm getting something from Forward Controls. I'm getting a hat from Vortex. I'm getting, all these things. There was price table enough to basically rotate everybody through twice. And a buddy of mine got a Badger Ordnance mount, and he got a gift certificate because they were separate. There was a gift certificate from Badger Ordnance, and nobody picked that up because nobody was looking at paper. And there was full guns on paper, and everybody was just grabbing things, but all over the place, because what we did was a random prize table. Some people like to do, set the prize table, and it's like all the scopes are here, and all the guns are here, and all the stuff is here, and all the stuff is here. Well, when we set up prize table, we did it random. So it was a match within a match, because getting to the prize table and looking through all the stuff that's just random. I mean, there's a sticker sitting right beside a full gun certificate, and a hat sitting, near a brand new barrel, just all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
Makes it more fun than just, I see a scope I want, I'm going to go straight to the scope. Maybe like,
right. Yeah. Or I'm not seeing anything. They're like, I watched a guy move a piece of paper that was a full gun. I mean, it was a full build, right? And then he moved this piece of paper and grabbed a sticker. And I was like, "Do you already get a prize?" And he's like, "No, man." I was like, "What are you doing? Read the piece of paper." And he's like, "Oh, wow." And
it's like, nope, you already chose the sticker.
Yeah, you already got a sticker, man. Good luck. I'll take that shit if you don't want it. So that was fun. And then Sunday went really well. We had basically the biggest thing that I saw from that match is people were not a lot of experienced shooters. They're experienced shooters, but not a lot of experienced competitors. So they weren't going fast when it was time to go fast, and they weren't going slow when it was time to go slow. If you think about the draw, if you start in this position where everybody starts you at, you're doing this thing, and you start here, how fast you move this hand doesn't affect your shot. But I watch guys go, when they go real slow to the gun, then they're like, and they go real fast, and then the gun's jerking everywhere, and then they start hammering on the trigger. And they're not moving their hand fast and getting the cut and then going slow on the trigger. It's where you use that time. And that was one of the big things that I learned, through all the shooting, was you have a certain amount of time to do stuff. What you're doing when, and where you're applying the speed, and where you're applying the brakes, and what you're doing slow, then that was it. There's a huge lesson in that. And the guys that shot this last one were slow in the wrong places. So with this next match, and what's cool about the next match is as soon as basically the rounds, the echo from the last shot was fired on the range, people hadn't even been to the prize table yet, and they're, where do I sign up for the next one? And I'm like, we haven't even set that up yet, man. And they're like, no, I want to sign up for the next one right now. So we'd already locked in the date and everything for the next match, but I hadn't done any of the admin stuff for it. And 2 weeks after the match happened, we opened up registration for the new one, and that's happening in February. It was 5 months away at the time, and within 4 hours, and we had 80 slots. Within 4 hours, we had sold 45 slots.
Wow!
By the end of the next day, we had sold like 75. By the end of the week, I had to bump up another. We decided we bump up another 16 slots. And as soon as I did that, like I clicked and I put it online, I was like, hey, there's 16 more slots open. They went, bup, 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 bup. I had 16 emails by the time that I went back to check the email. So, and that was a company goal, was we wanted to be able to, because I haven't even got into the other side. We've just been talking the matches yet, but we wanted to be able to sell out a match, or at least get the match enough to run, because you got a bottom number of participants that you need to run a match. Right. You got to pay the range, you got to pay that sort of things. You got to make it worth your while to go there. So we wanted to be able to, with one Facebook post, sell enough seats in the match to be able to run it. That way that stress was gone. Because we didn't want what happened to the finale, because the finale only sold 12 tickets like 3 days before the finale.
Okay.
So we didn't want to be in that spot ever. And to basically, I did one post on Quantified Performance Facebook page, one on Instagram, and then I shared the Quantified Performance one onto my page. So it was really 2 posts, one on Instagram, one on Facebook, and we sold half the seats within like 4 hours. So that was what we wanted for company goal, because we wanted to know as far ahead of time how much effort we needed to put into it. And selling out in a week was amazing. But the thing with our sponsors, and we have sponsors per match. We don't have like an annual sponsor. We don't have like an every month sponsor, any of that. Basically per match they send stuff. But what we wanted was, if we're only running 2 matches a year, 2 to 3 matches, that's a lot of time in between time that I talk to the sponsors, right? And, I talk to them because they're friends of mine, and I know those guys, and we talk, randomly, but I'm not saying, hey, check out this thing from Vortex, without resharing their stuff. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to have a members group where we're talking about the sponsors, where we're getting content, we're getting guys shooting, we're able to talk about all the stuff in between the matches. And the whole goal of the members group is to be able to basically not even publicly announce the match, that we sell out the match inside the members group. So, and of these 40 people that signed up, most of them were in the members group. So that was pretty effective on that for being, 6-7 month old company, or 6 month old company, to have enough members to be able to basically hit that and get that match sold out. And members group's a little slow right now. One of the things I learned from social media is basically about 1 in 3 will actually post something on a regular basis, and you're basically 1 in 10 to 1 in 15, which is really constant posting. So trying to get that members group up to about 300 people or so is a goal. Right now we're sitting about 200, and then but that's enough to get going with our goals right now. But we didn't want just rando people in there, because primary and secondary, if you're watching that, you get there's a bunch of great people in there. There's all kinds of great people in there, and thanks to everybody for supporting primary and secondary. But there's some people that provide no value. Yeah, they're not posting, they're not commenting, they're just there. It looks good for that number. It got 50,000 members. It's cool, but
I'm one of those guys.
They're not posting content. They're not asking questions. They're not sharing things. They're just a number, right? So I wanted people to be semi-invested into the members group. That way they would post stuff, because the only way the members group does what it's supposed to do is if it's posted. If one of you guys has a Vortex scope and one of you guys has Armageddon gear, and you do a post once per week, that's 2 of my sponsors that I don't have to develop content for, because I just take your stuff from the members group, share it onto the LLC page. The sponsors get to see that content. So if I got 5 people that's posting once a week on one of the products that happens to be one of my sponsors, I got 5 days worth of content there that I didn't have to do anything. I just take it, move it over here, and everybody's happy. That guy's happy because he got shared on this page. The sponsor's like, oh, look, Quantified Performance is doing some stuff. They got some guys doing work. And that's the purpose of that members group, because if I can have that content rolling in, I'm providing my own content, but if I have 2 posts a day, one from the members group and one from our group, our little band of people that, with the company or whatever, that can be that 2 posts per day, can time those. I can have constant content coming through. The members are helping. I go, hey guys, we got a match. The members group basically, they're coming to the match, and then we have the match, right? And the ultimate goal is we have the match with nobody knowing about it publicly, right? Only the members group have it. And then dudes go, hey, shot the Quantified Performance match, and I got all these prizes, and I got this Vortex, and I got this thing, and I got this thing. Because if the sponsors are happy, they're going to send more stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get more sponsors. So if we keep it inside the members group, and I still have my sponsors, and everybody's still happy, when guys start posting, be like, hey, I shot the Quantified performance match, and I got this scope, and this bag, and this thing, and this sticker, and this hat, and this thing, and they're just like, look at all the stuff I got. It's like Christmas. People are going to want to be in a members group.